They sent out a transmittal letter saying, you and local government have very odd and peculiar rules regarding the management of your pension funds, which keep you restrictive from using such trading vehicles such as derivatives, options, advanced forward currency transactions, puts, calls. This costs you billions of dollars each year. CalPERS, which did very well for the California pension funds, have reorganized under a national program, which we recommend you participate with. Under this program, you will not be restricted to not using derivatives, futures, calls, puts, and options, and thus you can benefit. So in 1981, they created the Mega Market Makers accounts through consolidation of the government pension funds. If you look at the exponential growth in the Dow from 1981 forward, you now know why. Composite government was securing their open interest and takeover of the marketplace, and now they're working on the international marketplace.
How does the United Nations fit into this with the desertification treaty that the Republicans accidentally passed after Clinton signed it? They didn't mean to give the United Nations 70%.
Let's go back.
Well, they gave them 70% of the control over 70% of the land in our country, 100% of it. That's public record now, folks. October 18th, 2000 passed. I thought it was bad 4 years ago, the UN taking over the national parks and monuments. How does the United Nations fit into this? Because the same big bankers that set up the UN are now giving it control over our country. Why is that happening?
Let's go back to 1945. There was two pesky little documents that existed in the United States which protected the populace. We had the Bill of Rights and the Constitution. This kept the powermongers from having absolute control over the people. Well, let's create the United Nations, 1945. Corporate headquarters, New York. Let's pay 65% of the dues for all of the member nations so they will participate so we can give some kind of validity to this organization. We don't care if we give them a loan and they default on it after they pay their dues. The IMF will pick up the tab. So here we have the United States boys creating the UN. Now they are giving authority to the UN for judicial, administrative, military authority, property, because the UN is not subject to those two pesky little problems, the Bill of Rights and the Constitution. Thus, the boys controlling the show now have a vehicle they can use, the UN, to control the populace of the United States that is exempt from constitutional law and the Bill of Rights.
And on the screen, we're going to put up Infowars.com that has the desertification treaty and other details and links directly to Congress at Infowars.com for folks to check that out. And I am building a site with Walter Burian's information on Infowars.com about the comprehensive annual financial reports, and that will be up sometime next week. And if you just type in CAFR, CAFR, into a search engine, you'll get thousands of links to government websites bragging about how much money they have and how much stocks and bonds and how many companies they own. It is empire building.
Keep in mind, Alex, they have perpetuated this empire and they are growing unabated. They have accomplished their objective, the complete financial takeover of the wealth of this country.
All right,
recapping. The public continues to fund it.
Recapping, Walter, microcosm, there's counties, cities, states, the feds, CAFRs. They only tell us about the budget in Texas. Oh, we had a $4 billion surplus in 99. We had a $6.9 billion surplus in 98. We have this big phony political fight between the Republicans and the Democrats, the same people at the top, the same committee people, fighting over how much of that.
Hold on. $1 billion surplus going into the year 2004.
Yeah, fighting over how much of a surplus we'll have, how much they'll give us back in tax cuts, when really in 98 they had $435 billion. The point is, they don't need more money, they don't need more taxes. Taxes could be completely phased out. Now, Walter Burian, give us the solutions of how this problem could be fixed here in the next 10 minutes.
Well, as I mentioned, I talked to a heavyweight in California and briefed him on the proposal of setting up an annuity pension fund for the resident property owners and taxpayers at a city level, county level, and state level, whereby the surplus revenues are deposited into. The venture and enterprise projects, which no way government should be owning, are sold back into the private sector, golf courses, the whole nine yards, phenomenal assets, which they should not be owning, and where overgrowth took place, downsizing. I gave the example of Arizona, 1,000% increase in 15 years in revenue taken. With those three areas, you create a phenomenal investment pool of funds under this annuity pension fund for the resident property owners and taxpayers. It is written in stone that the principle of operation of this fund, and you get together with a few financial planners and some of the top investment banking groups to write a prospectus for that city, county, or state, having a guideline for phasing out all forced taxation and having the local government operate from that fund, okay? You have the ability of phasing out all taxation in that city, county, or state, and under good, prudent financial management, providing a surplus there whereby the local residents and property owners get a dividend return on top of no forced taxation. It can be done all across the country. What is required at this time is to get a model up on the playing field. Target one city, one county. County would be better, because if you pass it on the county level, every city within that county becomes subject to following the principle of operation of the restructuring under the authority of the will of the public.
Now, Walter...
And he said, this is a massive structure, Walter. How can you possibly implement it? It would take so much time. And my response was, it's already been done.
Now, Walter...
government pension funds generated $4.3 trillion last year. That's more than all forced taxation in the country.
Now, Walter, before we get back into the solution, I want to remind people of the fact that not everyone in government is even aware of this. In a county, in a city at the lower level, who are the players that have to be aware of the full nature of the constructive fraud of this organized crime syndicate?
Your city manager is going to be aware. The treasurer of a state will be aware. The auditor general of the state will be aware. The investment banking groups, they're quite aware of the resources. They're constantly bidding to get the money to manage. The best place to look is the Auditor General's office. He gets copies of every single report submitted by local government.
So if the city of Austin is refusing to give locals a copy of their comprehensive annual financial report saying, what is that? I don't know what that is. I never heard of those.
Yeah, you can call the Auditor General's office and they'll say, well, I'll use an example. I'm making up a name here, but Jim Miller produces this for the CPA firm of Smith & Barney, and their address is, and their telephone number is, and they've prepared the report for the city of Austin for the last 5 years.
And
they'll know exactly who prepares it, where to get a copy, and when you go back to your city and they play dumb, being that you said that, a year and a half ago, I got a call from someone in Pennsylvania. They said, I just spoke to my congressman. I'm good friends with him, and he never heard of this before, but he's going to look into it, and he said he will definitely take some action on this issue as soon as he finds out about it. And, I kind of smiled, and I said, I'm going to put you through on a conference call. I called the mailroom from the Department of Treasury in Pennsylvania that put out the report, and I just basically said, this congressman, it was like about a 4 or 5 term congressman. How long has he been getting the report? Well, he's had it sent to him for the last 8 years. Where did you send it to? We sent it to his office, except for 2 years ago. He was on vacation in the Bahamas, and we sent the report to him in the Bahamas because he wanted to get it while he was on vacation. So here is the congressman saying to his constituent, I never heard of that before. I'm going to have to look into it. And here I confirm to the person that the person's been getting it for 8 years, and in fact specially requested the report to be sent to them in the Bahamas.
Now, we're about to get back into the solution. For those that don't know what we're talking about, the budget is one small little thing. What government spends in the services, whether it's checkpoints or stealing your children or cramming Ritalin down their throats or actually paving a road like they're supposed to do. And they say, if you don't give us all your money, you're not going to have the roads paved because we're broke. When in truth, here in Texas in '98, $435 billion cream surplus after everything they'd spent just sitting there. 435.
When they cry poverty, saying the road has to be improved, we're going to have a bond issuance of $150 million to pave this road. And I always thought the public was funding that $150 million. When I started looking at the revenue flow, they're using their own investment funds to fund their own bond issuances, locking the public in under more debt.
Now, Walter, getting back into solutions, if we had people that could take over